The Galactic Accord Summit was not a normal meeting. It happened once every 100 years, and leaders from every major species in the Orion sector were invited. The summit took place on Euraxes Prime, a giant city world full of lights, towers, and alien languages. Peace talks, trade agreements, and secret alliances, everything happened here. Among the guests was Captain Elias Vance, a human military officer known for winning difficult battles. He had sharp gray eyes, short black hair, and a calm face. People said he was brave, others said he was lucky, but most agreed he was dangerous. Humanity had only joined the Galactic Accord 20 years ago. They were still new, still learning the rules of this big, strange galaxy. Many alien leaders didn't trust humans. They said humans were too emotional, too wild, but Queen Saravel of the Zalari Dominion was not like other leaders. The Zalari were tall insect-like beings with shining green shells and glowing eyes. Their society was based on ranks and order. They spoke through telepathy, using their minds to send thoughts instead of words. Saravel was their queen, powerful, intelligent, and feared. She rarely spoke in public and never showed emotion. But when she entered the summit hall and saw Captain Vance, something changed. She stopped walking. Her large black eyes locked onto him. Her guards raised their weapons. The whole room went silent. Then she said, in perfect spoken galactic common, "Wait, I remember now. You must be the one who saved me years ago." The room gasped. Nobody moved. The Queen of the Zalari had just broken royal protocol. She had shown surprise, and not just that, gratitude to a human. Vance looked confused. He had never seen her before. At least he didn't think so. He took a slow step forward. "Your Majesty, I think you're mistaken." She stared at him for a long moment. Then she turned to her guards and said something in the Zalari language. They lowered their weapons. She turned back to Vance. "I request a private meeting, under the ancient debt right." A wave of whispers moved across the hall. The ancient debt right was a rare and sacred tradition. If someone saved a Zalari royal, the royal owed a life debt. And once that bond was claimed, it could not be broken even by war. The Galactic Council quickly paused the summit. Vance was escorted to a private chamber where Queen Saravel waited, her expression unreadable. The room was quiet. Soft lights glowed from the walls. There were no chairs. Zalari preferred to stand. Vance stood tall, arms behind his back. The Queen moved closer, her voice low and calm. 20 years ago. The world of Virella. I was a princess, wounded, hiding from rebels. I was about to die, but someone found me. A warm-blooded being. 2 eyes, 2 hands. He gave me water, medicine. He did not speak my language. But he stayed. Vance's face darkened. "Virella, I was there. A Black Ops mission, but it was classified. I wasn't supposed to help anyone," she nodded. "But you did." He remembered flashes, heat, sand, explosions. He had been separated from his unit, found shelter in a canyon, and there had been someone, a creature, wounded. He had used his emergency kit, gave food, made a shelter. Then he left when the signal beacon called him back. He had forgotten it. It had been just another mission, but to her it was life-changing. "I never forgot your face," she said. "Even if I didn't understand it then, I remember now." Vance let out a slow breath. "I didn't know you were royalty." "You did not ask," she said. "You simply helped." They were silent for a while. The air felt heavy. Old memories came back like ghosts. Then she said, "You may now claim the royal bond?" "I didn't do it for a reward," Vance replied. "This is not a reward," Saravel said. "This is protection. You will be under Zalari law. If anyone tries to harm you, they harm me." Vance smiled slightly. "That might make some people angry." Saravel's eyes flashed. "Let them be angry. Truth does not fear anger." Suddenly, the lights flickered. A soft hum became a sharp alarm. The Queen's guards shouted in their language. One of them pulled a weapon and fired at the ceiling. An invisible drone exploded into sparks. An assassination attempt. More drones entered the room, dropping from vents. Vance pulled a small pistol from his belt and fired quickly, hitting one. In midair, the Queen raised a clawed hand. Her eyes glowed bright. A wave of psychic energy hit the drones, throwing them against the walls. It was fast. Loud, and over in 10 seconds, silence returned. One of the guards spoke urgently in Zalari. The Queen turned to Vance. "We must leave. Now, someone does not want us to remember Varela." Vance nodded. "Lead the way." As they escaped through a hidden tunnel, Vance's mind raced. Who had sent the drones? Why now? What secret was buried in the past? One thing was clear: this was not just a personal memory. It was a threat to someone. A powerful someone, and Vance had just become the key to unlocking a mystery that could change the galaxy. The hidden tunnel led deep beneath Oyuraxes Prime's great city. Captain Ilias Vance followed Queen Saravel without question. The Queen's guards were close behind, their weapons ready. The sudden attack in the summit had changed everything. Now, survival was their first goal. As they reached a secret landing bay, Saravel spoke softly. "You must know everything about Varela, the world where I was saved." Vance looked out at the black starry sky through the glass dome of the hangar. "I remember only bits and pieces. It was a dangerous mission. Classified. I was supposed to gather intelligence on a rebel group. I was not supposed to get involved with anyone, especially not a Zalari." Saravel nodded. "You did more than just get involved. You saved me." Vance's face tightened. "I was alone, wounded, and exhausted. I didn't know you were there." "Phew." "Know the truth," Saravel said. "That time changed me. It shaped my life, but I never knew who saved me until now." The silence between them was deep. Neither wanted to speak about what happened on Varela. Not yet. The small shuttle they boarded lifted quickly into space. The Queen's personal pilot, a young Zelari named Tasri, set a course for Varela. Varela was a desert world. The planet was covered with endless golden sand and red rocky cliffs. Its surface was harsh with violent sandstorms and burning sun. Few ships landed there now. It was dangerous and mostly abandoned. Vance felt a knot in his stomach. Returning to that place meant facing ghosts from the past. "Why now?" he asked. "Why bring me here after all these years?" Saravel's glowing eyes met his. "Because the past is not finished. The rebels I once fled from have returned. And the secrets we buried on Varela may destroy more than just our histories." The shuttle shook as it entered Varela's thin atmosphere. Dust and heat waves shimmered below. The shuttle landed near the ruins of an old rebel camp. Broken walls, rusted metal, and scorched earth told stories of violence and loss. Saravel led Vance toward a cave mouth hidden behind a sand dune. "This is where you found me." Inside the cave, the air was cooler and dark. The walls were rough but sheltering. On the floor were old medical supplies, dried bloodstains, and footprints long faded. Saravel knelt and touched a faded mark on the rock. "You built a shelter here." Vance stared, memories rushing back. "I had a survival kit. I used rocks and sand to build a windbreaker. You were weak but alive. I didn't know who you were, only that you needed help." "Help came with no questions," Saravel said. "That is why I remember you." Vance swallowed hard. "I never got your name." "I never told anyone I was here." "Some secrets must stay hidden," Saravel whispered. As they explored the ruins, Vance noticed something strange. The rebel camp had been recently disturbed. There were new footprints in the sand, too fresh to be old history. "Someone else has been here," Vance said. Saravel's eyes narrowed. "I feared this. The rebel group, the Red Scythe, is back. They want to find something buried beneath this desert." "Something?" Vance asked. "The truth," she said simply. That night, under the cold stars, Vance and Saravel camped outside the cave. The desert wind whispered stories of betrayal and war. Saravel shared what she knew. The Red Scythe rebels had fought a civil war against the Zalari Dominion. During the chaos, she was betrayed by her own guards and left to die on Varela. The memory of being saved by a human was the only light she held. "But why did you never tell anyone?" Vance asked. "Because it was dangerous," Saravel said. "And because no one would believe it. Humans were not allies then." Vance thought of the summit, the cold stares, the whispered doubts. "And now?" "Now everything is different." She said, "You are not just a soldier, you are a symbol. A bridge between our peoples." Suddenly the ground shook. A loud rumble rolled across the desert. Vance grabbed his rifle. "Earthquake?" Saraval shook her head. "No, something is moving underground." From the distance, they saw dust clouds rising. Vehicles approached fast armed rebels. The red scythe had found them. Vance fired a warning shot. "We have to defend ourselves." Saraval's guards formed a circle, their weapons glowing with Solari energy. Vance checked his pistol and prepared. For the fight, the rebels attacked with speed and fury, shouting strange words. Vance and Saraval fought side by side, his bullets and her psychic blasts working together. The battle was fierce but short. The rebels retreated, leaving behind a broken drone. Vance picked it up, scanning its data. "Look at this," he said. The drone's memory showed images of an ancient device buried under the desert, something powerful and unknown. Saraval's face grew serious. "This is why they want Varela. The device could change the balance of power in the galaxy." Before dawn, Vance and Saraval made a plan. "We must find the device before the rebels do," Saraval said. Vance nodded. "And we need to warn the Galactic Accord." The Queen's hand brushed his arm. "You saved my life once. Now, together, we save the future." As the first light of the twin suns touched the sands, Vance felt a new mission begin, not just for survival, but for trust and alliance. Captain Elias Vance and Queen Saraval returned from Varela to Oyuraxes Prime with a heavy secret. The ancient device buried under the desert sands was not just old technology. It was powerful enough to shift control of the entire Orion sector. If the Red Scythe rebels found it first, war would explode across the galaxy. Oyuraxes Prime was normally a place of diplomacy and peace, but now it felt like a trap. Vance watched the crowds of alien leaders in the Great Hall, their faces full of suspicion. Humans were still newcomers to the Accord, and many wanted to see them fail. Saraval moved with quiet confidence, but her eyes held tension. The memory of the attack on the summit lingered like a shadow. Someone inside the Accord was working against them. In the private chambers of the Galactic Council, Vance stood before the leaders of many worlds. His voice was steady but firm. "We have proof that the Red Scythe rebels are trying to find an ancient weapon buried on Varela," he said. "If they succeed, they will use it to destroy the peace we have built," the room murmured. A tall blue-skinned diplomat from the Zarathi Empire leaned forward. "Why should we trust a human soldier? Your species has only recently joined us." Saraval raised her hand, silencing the room. "Captain Vance saved my life years ago when I was a princess on Varela. He is bound by the royal debt, a sacred Zalari oath. He speaks the truth." Despite her words, doubts remained. A small group of powerful leaders whispered among themselves. Among them was Counselor Torin, a cold and calculating man who seemed especially hostile to humans. After the meeting, Vance and Saraval walked in the quiet corridors of the Accord Palace. "Something is wrong," Saraval said. "Not all want peace. The Red Scythe is only a symptom." Vance looked at her. "What do you mean?" She paused. "There is a secret faction inside the Accord. They want to keep us divided. They believe humans should not rise in power." Vance clenched his fists. "That faction has a name?" "The Pale Directive," she said quietly. "They believe humans are the galaxy's future rulers, but only if they dominate, not cooperate. They want war." Vance's mind raced. The Pale Directive was rumored but never proven. If true, it explained the assassination attempt. As they planned their next move, Vance received a secure message. It was from his old war buddy, Greyline, an AI combat drone who had fought beside him on many missions. Greyline's voice was calm but urgent. "Captain, I have detected unusual activity near the Accord's data vaults. Someone is trying to erase records related to Varela and the royal debt." Vance frowned. "We need to stop them." Saraval nodded. "If the evidence disappears, no one will believe us." That night, under the cover of darkness, Vance, Saraval, and Greyline sneaked into the data vaults, a massive underground complex filled with holographic records and ancient documents. The air was cold and smelled of metal. Greyline scanned for security systems while Vance and Saravel searched for the files about Varela. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flashed. They had been detected. Traps, Greyline said. We are locked in. Outside, footsteps approached rapidly, armed agents of the Pale Directive. Vance pulled his pistol and moved to defend the entrance. Saravel raised her hands, sending a wave of psychic energy to slow the attackers. The fight was fierce. The agents were trained, but Vance, Saravel, and Greyline worked perfectly together. Greyline used its mechanical strength to throw attackers aside, while Vance fired with precision, and Saravel used her telepathy to confuse their minds. After the battle, they accessed the records. Holograms flickered to life, showing detailed information about the ancient device on Varela, a weapon called the Starforge. It could create or destroy stars. This is why the Red Scythe wants it, Saravel said gravely, and why the Pale Directive fears its power falling into the wrong hands. Vance stared at the glowing blueprints. If the Starforge is real, the galaxy will never be the same. Suddenly the lights went out. The vaults plunged into darkness. A voice spoke from the shadows. You have no idea what you are meddling with. A figure stepped forward, a tall human in a dark uniform with the emblem of the Pale Directive. Vance's heart sank. Torin. The counselor smirked. You should have stayed out of this, Captain. But now you're part of the game. The sudden darkness in the vault shocked Captain Elias Vance and Queen Saravel. The voice from the shadows, cold and confident, belonged to Counselor Torin, leader of the Pale Directive. His presence confirmed everything they feared. A powerful enemy was working within the Galactic Accord itself. Torin's eyes glinted under the dim emergency lights. You think the Starforge is a weapon to save the galaxy? It is a tool for control, and I intend to use it to reshape the future. Vance tightened his grip on his pistol. You'll never succeed. Torin smiled cruelly. That remains to be seen. Before they could react, Torin pressed a hidden button. A strong force field activated, trapping Vance, Saravel, and Greyline. Inside the data vault, time is running out, Torin said, turning away. The Red Scythe will find the Starforge soon. The galaxy's fate belongs to those who are willing to take it. Outside the vault, alarms blared through the Accord. Palace. Security teams rushed to the scene. But Torin's agents blocked their path, using advanced weapons and shields. It was clear. Torin controlled many inside the Accord. Vance's mind raced. They needed to escape, and fast. Greyline's mechanical voice broke the silence. I am scanning for weaknesses in the force field. Saravel closed her eyes, focusing her mind. Her psychic senses reached out, searching for hidden controls. After tense moments, Greyline beeped. I have found a small energy vent near the base of the wall. It might be narrow, but could allow someone to pass. Vance studied the vent. It was tiny, but there was no other choice. I'll go, he said. Saravel shook her head. No, I will go with you. If we split up, one of us can disable the field from the outside. Vance nodded. Greyline, cover us. Carefully, Vance and Saravel crawled through the narrow vent. The tight space scraped their skin, but they pushed forward. Guided by Greyline's navigation dot at the end, they found themselves in a small maintenance tunnel. It led toward the control room, where the force field's power source was located. Vance looked around. This place is heavily guarded, Saravel nodded. But the control panels should be nearby. They moved quietly, avoiding patrols. The palace was no longer a place of peace, but a battlefield. In the control room, Saravel touched the glowing panels with her claws. Her psychic energy hummed through the circuits, trying to disable the force field. Vance kept watch at the door. Weapon ready. Suddenly, footsteps approached. 2 Pale Directive agents entered, guns raised. Stop right there, one shouted. Without hesitation, Vance fired a warning shot. The agents ducked behind cover. Saravel focused her mind, sending a wave of psychic energy. One agent froze in place, eyes wide with shock. The other dropped his weapon, trembling. The room fell silent. Saravel quickly finished disabling the force field. We're free. Back in the vault, Greyline moved to open the door. As it slid open, Vance and Saravel returned. They rushed to the data terminals. The holograms of the Starforge floated in the air, showing schematics and energy readings. Saravel pointed to one part. The Starforge is powered by a rare mineral called Zyphrite. It's only found on one moon in the Varela system. Vance frowned. Then we need to get there first. Suddenly an alarm sounded again. Torin's voice echoed through the vaults. Speakers, you cannot stop the future, Vance. You and your queen are already dead men walking. With no time to waste, Vance, Saravel, and Greyline escaped the vault. Outside, the palace was in chaos. Torin's forces clashed with loyal security. Vance contacted his ship. Prepare for immediate launch. We're going to Varela. Saravel looked determined. If the Starforge falls into the wrong hands, all life in the galaxy will be at risk, Greyline added. I will assist with navigation and defense. The journey to Varela was tense and quiet. Vance stared out the viewport, thinking about the desert world below. After everything, he said softly, I still don't understand why you never told anyone about me before. Saravel looked at him. Because trust is fragile, and because I was not ready to face the truth, Vance smiled. Well, now you have no choice. As the shuttle entered Varela's atmosphere, the landscape looked harsher than before. Dust storms raged, and the red sun beat down fiercely. They landed near the ancient rebel ruins, now heavily guarded by Red Side forces. Vance, Saravel, and Greyline moved carefully, using stealth to avoid detection. Their goal, the moon where Zyphrite was mined. Suddenly, a squad of rebels appeared. Vance raised his weapon, but Saravel stopped him. Wait, she whispered. Using her psychic abilities, she reached into the minds of the rebels. She planted a suggestion, confusion, and fear. The rebels hesitated, then fled into the sands. Reaching the shuttle, they took off for the moon orbiting Varela. The moon was a rocky, barren place. Mines and tunnels cut into its surface. Greyline scanned for Zyphrite deposits. Mineral concentration is high in the northern tunnels. As they prepared to land, sensors detected incoming ships. Torin's fleet was close behind on the moon's surface. A fierce battle began. Vance and Saravel fought side by side, their skills perfectly matched. Greyline used heavy weapons and shields to protect them. Torin appeared on the battlefield, commanding his troops. His presence was cold and commanding. You cannot win, he said. The Starforge will be mine. Vance raised his weapon. Not while I'm alive. The battle raged deep into the tunnels. Vance and Saravel reached the Zyphrite core just as Torin tried to activate the ancient device. Saravel used her psychic power to block the activation. Vance fired at Torin's weapon, destroying it with a final burst of energy. They secured the Starforge and destroyed its control systems. Torin's forces retreated, defeated. The battle on the moon was over. The Starforge, the ancient and dangerous device, was finally secured. Captain Elias Vance and Queen Saravel stood side by side, breathing heavily under the harsh red sky. Their enemies had fled, but the war was far from over. Saravel looked at Vance with deep respect. You have risked everything for me, for all of us. Vance smiled, tired but determined. I didn't do it for you alone. I did it for the future of every world in the galaxy. Their small team returned to their ship, the shuttle's engines humming as they prepared to leave. But Saravel's face darkened. We must warn the Galactic Accord. The Pale Directive still moves in the shadows. Torin will not give up. Vance nodded. We need a plan and allies. Back on Oyuraxes Prime, the atmosphere was tense. The news of the Starforge and the conflict with the Pale Directive spread quickly, stirring fear and uncertainty. The Galactic Council gathered in emergency session. Vance and Saravel entered the Great Hall together. This time they were not just survivors, but leaders. Saravel's voice echoed through the chamber. The Starforge cannot be used by any one power. It is too dangerous. Vance added, we need unity. We need to rebuild trust between humans, Zilari, and all who call this galaxy home. Some council members nodded, but many were still afraid. The Pale Directive had deep roots. Its agents worked silently, spreading distrust. Counselor Torin appeared again, this time in front of the entire council. His voice was calm but deadly. "You speak of peace," he said. "But peace means weakness. Only strength will bring order to the galaxy." Saraval stood firm. "Strength without justice is tyranny. We must choose a new path." The hall grew silent. It was clear the galaxy stood at a crossroads. That night, Vance and Saraval met in private. The weight of the future rested on their shoulders. "We cannot fight the Pale Directive alone," Vance said. "We need something more." Saraval nodded. "I agree. We need to unite the fractured groups, rebels, loyalists, humans, and aliens alike." Vance looked at her, surprised. "You want to form an alliance with the Red Scythe?" Saraval's eyes shone with determination. "Yes, they fought for freedom once, but they are tired of war. They want peace too." With careful negotiation, Vance and Saraval reached out to the Red Scythe leaders. It was risky, old wounds ran deep. But both sides knew the greater threat was the Pale Directive. The meetings were tense. Suspicion hung in the air. But slowly, a fragile alliance formed. The final plan was bold. The Starforge would be dismantled and hidden in secret locations across the galaxy. The Pale Directive's leaders would be exposed and removed from power. Vance led a special task force, including former rebels and loyalists. Saraval used her influence to unite the council behind them. Together, they began the Queen's Gambit, a strategic move to end the Shadow War. In a decisive strike, the task force captured Torin and his top agents. The evidence of their treason was undeniable. The council voted to dissolve the Pale Directive. New laws were passed to ensure transparency and cooperation. With the Starforge safe, Vance and Saraval stood on the balcony of the Accord Palace. The twin suns set over the horizon, casting warm light on the city. Saraval turned to Vance. "You were the one who saved me years ago." Vance smiled. "And you saved me from giving up hope." They looked at the stars together, a future bright with possibility.